U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a new executive order imposing a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico, along with a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. This decision applies to all products that were not previously covered by existing tariffs. Given that Canada and Mexico are among the United States' largest trading partners, this move has the potential to significantly disrupt that has sparked strong reactions from Mexico. Following the announcement, both Canada and Mexico declared their intention to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. The Canadian government is preparing countermeasures that could include additional duties on American agricultural products, auto parts, and consumer electronics. Meanwhile, Mexico is considering new tariffs on U.S. meat, dairy products, and industrial equipment. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau criticized the decision, stating, "Canada is the United States' largest export market. This move will not only harm our economy, but also negatively impact American businesses." Similarly, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador dismissed Trump's accusations, saying, "Our government is fully committed to fighting drug cartels." These allegations undermine the cooperation between our two nations. China also condemned the new tariffs, warning of possible retaliatory measures against U.S. imports. The Chinese government is reportedly considering imposing additional duties on American technology products and agricultural exports. In an official statement, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared, "The U.S.'s unilateral tariff policies harm the global economy. These actions will have negative consequences for trade relations between our countries." Economic analysts warn that the escalating tariff disputes could fuel inflation in the U.S., disrupt supply chains, and create hardships for American businesses. Higher costs for Canadian and Mexican imports could lead to increased prices for consumers, while retaliatory tariffs from trading partners may hurt American exporters. The coming days will be crucial in determining how this trade conflict unfolds. The global market is closely monitoring whether Canada and Mexico will proceed with their retaliatory tariffs, and how China will respond to the latest trade restrictions. The impact of these new tariffs could be far greater than expected, affecting prices, jobs, and international relations in ways we haven't seen before. How will Canada, Mexico, and China strike back? Will the U.S. economy withstand the pressure, or are we heading toward a major trade crisis? Stay tuned as we break down the latest developments and uncover what this means for the future. Don't miss any crucial details. Watch until the end to get the full picture. And if you find this analysis valuable, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us bring you more in-depth content on global events. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has cited drug trafficking concerns as one of the key reasons for imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian imports. A widely shared statistic on social media suggests that only 1% of the fentanyl entering the United States comes from Canada, while more than 90% is smuggled in through the Mexican border. However, the Trump administration argues that the issue is not just about the current quantity, but also the increasing production of fentanyl in Canada. According to U.S. officials, enough fentanyl was seized at the northern border last fiscal year to potentially kill 9.8 million Americans. This alarming figure has been used to justify the decision, with the administration warning that even a small amount of fentanyl can be lethal, making any production or trafficking of the drug a significant threat to national security. Despite these concerns, some analysts question the justification for imposing the same 25% tariff on Canada as on Mexico. Immigration was another factor cited by the administration, yet the numbers show a stark contrast. Over the past 4 years, more than 8 million illegal immigrants have crossed into the U.S. from Mexico, while fewer than 500,000 entered from Canada. Additionally, much of the fentanyl problem originates in China, where precursor chemicals are produced and then shipped to Mexico and Canada for processing before being smuggled into the United States. The administration itself acknowledges this, stating that the Chinese Communist Party has subsidized chemical companies involved in fentanyl production. Despite this, China is only facing a 10% tariff, leading to further debate over the rationale behind these trade measures. Some experts argue that if the U.S. truly wanted to target the root of the fentanyl crisis, it should impose harsher economic restrictions on China rather than disproportionately penalizing Canada and Mexico, both of which have extensive economic ties with the U.S. The decision to impose such high tariffs has sparked strong reactions from Canada. Following the announcement, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau swiftly responded, both on social media and in a press conference. In a statement, he confirmed that Canada was prepared to take action, saying, "The United States has confirmed that it intends to impose 25% tariffs on most Canadian goods, with a 10% tariff on energy starting February 4th. We did not want this, but Canada is prepared." His statement signaled that Canada was unwilling to accept these trade measures without retaliation, setting the stage for an escalating trade conflict between the two nations. Later, in a press conference, Trudeau directly criticized the U.S. decision, arguing that these tariffs would divide the two countries rather than strengthen their long-standing partnership. He emphasized that Canada has been a crucial economic ally to the U.S., purchasing more American exports than any other country. Trudeau also pointed out that the U.S. and Canada have historically worked together to address global challenges, and this tariff decision undermines that cooperative relationship. He then announced Canada's retaliatory measures, declaring that a 25% tariff would be imposed on $155 billion worth of American goods. The first round of countermeasures includes immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of U.S. imports, with an additional $125 billion in tariffs set to follow in the coming months. These measures will target key American industries, including agriculture, automobile manufacturing, and consumer goods, in an effort to pressure the U.S. administration into reconsidering its stance. The escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada are now being closely watched, as both countries brace for the economic impact of these new tariffs. Analysts warn that prolonged trade disputes could disrupt supply chains, increase consumer prices, and strain diplomatic relations between the two nations. American businesses that rely on Canadian imports could see rising costs, while Canadian exporters may struggle to remain competitive in the U.S. market. Additionally, the uncertainty surrounding these trade policies could lead to instability in financial markets, as investors weigh the potential consequences of a prolonged tariff war. As both sides prepare for further negotiations, the global market remains on edge, awaiting the next developments in this rapidly evolving situation. The key question now is whether the U.S. administration will reconsider its approach, or if the trade war will intensify, potentially leading to even harsher economic consequences for all parties involved. In the coming weeks, political leaders, economic experts, and international trade organizations will be watching closely to see if a resolution can be reached or if tensions will continue to escalate, further straining the U.S.-Canada relationship. In a bold move, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that Canada would be retaliating against the U.S. with 25% tariffs on $155 billion worth of American goods, effective February 4th. Trudeau's announcement came shortly after the U.S. revealed its plan to impose similar tariffs on Canadian imports. According to Trudeau, $30 billion worth of American goods will face immediate tariffs, with the remaining $125 billion set to take effect in 21 days. This delay will give Canadian companies time to adjust their supply chains and find alternative suppliers. While some goods, such as energy and oil, are excluded from the tariffs, the move is still a significant blow to U.S.-Canada trade relations. Trudeau, addressing the nation, urged Canadians to support their local economy by choosing Canadian-made products and even reconsidering travel plans to support the country's tourism industry. He emphasized the importance of unity, stating that the Canadian government, businesses, labor unions, and citizens were all aligned in their response to the U.S. tariffs. with a significant portion of Canada's GDP relying on exports to the U.S. The tariffs could have a profound impact on both economies, potentially leading to a recession if negotiations do not take place. As tensions rise, the question remains, how will U.S. businesses that rely on the Canadian market react to these retaliatory tariffs? The Canadian public's response has been swift and vocal, with some even calling for a boycott of American goods. A particularly striking moment occurred during a Canadian hockey game, where fans expressed their displeasure with the U.S. national anthem, highlighting the growing resentment among the Canadian population toward the Trump administration's actions. In response to the growing trade dispute, President Trump's administration has indicated that further retaliation from Canada, Mexico, or China could lead to an escalation of tariffs. Reports suggest that U.S. officials warned that if Canada were to retaliate, the tariffs could increase and other punitive measures could be introduced, targeting more than just trade. The Trump administration has justified its tariff actions by citing trade deficits with all three countries, as well as the ongoing issues related to fentanyl trafficking, particularly from China. However, critics argue that the tariffs on Canada, which has a relatively low rate of fentanyl trafficking, may not be entirely justified given the far greater volumes coming from Mexico. As Canada and the U.S. prepare for the full implementation of these tariffs, the global community is closely monitoring how the situation will unfold. The potential for a trade war between the two nations is real, and both countries' economies could feel the repercussions for years to come. With a large portion of U.S. exports to Canada at risk, businesses are bracing for the impact, while the Canadian government seems resolute in its response. As both sides dig in, the question remains whether this trade dispute will be resolved diplomatically or escalate further, causing a ripple effect throughout the global market. The coming weeks will be critical in determining the future of U.S.-Canada relations and the stability of their shared economic landscape. The ongoing trade tensions between the U.S. and its North American neighbors have taken a dramatic turn, with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration intensifying its actions. In a recent move, the U.S. imposed significant tariffs on Canada, sparking outrage in Ottawa. These tariffs are partly justified by concerns over fentanyl trafficking and immigration, but the situation may be about more than that. Many analysts believe Trump's ultimate goal is to reshape North American manufacturing and global trade, with Canada and Mexico being caught in the crossfire. The situation has escalated further with the U.S. targeting the so-called de minimis exemption, a loophole that allowed companies like Shine and Temu to bypass tariffs by shipping low-value packages from China through Canada or Mexico into the U.S. This exemption, originally designed to allow small personal items to be brought into the U.S. duty-free, was being exploited by large corporations to avoid millions in tariffs. The Biden administration attempted to close this loophole in 2024, requiring companies to file more paperwork. However, Trump's new executive orders aim to eliminate the exemption entirely, signaling a potential blow to Chinese companies and U.S. consumers who benefited from the cheap imports. Another significant development involves Mexico's response to the tariffs. In a defiant statement, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador rejected the U.S. accusations that the Mexican government had alliances with drug cartels, calling the allegations slander. He emphasized that Mexico had seized over 40 tons of drugs, including fentanyl, in the past 4 months and arrested thousands of people linked to these cartels. The Mexican president called for joint action between the U.S. and Mexico to combat drug trafficking and violence, stressing that cooperation, not tariffs, is the key to solving these issues. As for retaliation, while the exact measures remain unclear, López Obrador indicated that Mexico has a plan in place, which includes both tariff and non-tariff measures to protect its interests. The U.S. move to escalate tariffs has not only sparked outrage in Canada and Mexico, but has also raised concerns about the broader implications for international trade. China, for its part, has chosen to challenge the U.S. in the World Trade Organization, WTO, signaling that the global trade environment could soon become even more unpredictable. Amid this geopolitical tension, there's also speculation that these trade battles could influence U.S. domestic politics, with some suggesting that the tariff wars are part of a larger strategy to reframe global manufacturing and strengthen U.S. economic power. However, it remains to be seen whether these aggressive tactics will succeed in achieving Trump's ultimate goals, or if they will backfire, leading to further economic strain. With Canada, Mexico, and China all poised for retaliation, and the U.S. facing mounting pressure on multiple fronts, the next steps in this trade conflict will be crucial. As the situation continues to evolve, the global community watches closely, wondering whether diplomacy can prevail or if the world will be plunged deeper into a trade war. Stay tuned for more updates as this story unfolds.